President, then have said okay to then ask questions. But Mr. Jefferson did ask a question that was on here because someone did ask or mention a traffic light at 129 and Bass Road might cost $1 million. I remember $2 million. I don't know. I'm assuming that's with turn lanes and that sort of thing. So if you're not involved until later, after the developer, and I met Mr. Boucher, this nice gentleman, after he's gone, then does that mean the DOT is going to pay for that traffic light, or will the city pay for it? And the price now, approximately, what would something like that cost? Just as curiosity.
It's hard to speculate, once again, without seeing a concept. You know, you've got to look at the warrant side of things, the type of signal, the type of span. Are turn lanes needed, are they not? Utility coordination, there's all these other considerations, so it's hard to dive down. They're all different, they're all unique.
Could it cost $1 million?
Considering it, and I'll say this, since you would be working, the work product will be on the DOT facility. It's got to meet DOT specifications for longevity. It's got to be designed by an engineer licensed in the state of Florida, as well as the construction engineering inspection oversight to make sure the quality product is delivered and plans and specs are met. So all of those things combined, it wouldn't surprise me. But understand the requirements maybe more. It's just hard to know until you see the lab.
Fair enough. So, but we wouldn't know that until 5 years down the road, maybe, or even longer, possibly.
Potentially.
From this point, yeah, maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
Continuing on with the process, as we said, we anticipate large developments in the future. As an elected official, what issues should we be most concerned with concerning traffic? I mean, traffic lights, I'm sure, is one of them. But other things, I'm not sure what you look at.
The best approach is early coordination, and from my perspective, whether it's off system, on system, if you request DOT to come in and look in the grander sense of things, we will absolutely dive into the details and talk about, you know, relevant experiences, similar type of buildings that we've seen, to try to plan for that future need. There are scenarios where developers will come in, you know, the broader desire may be, you know, I'm just making up a number, maybe 1,000 homes, but they may do it in phases. So what you'll see is there may be a permitted access that builds into that grander vision. So in the initial opening, it may only be set improvements with the commitment of the developer to, you know, to go forward and do more at a later date time when demand is reached.
Do you can you point to a similar size? I know we don't know yet exactly now. I know Mr. Boucher's not up here to speak, but I know that initially it was 480 units, homes, residential homes is what I understood. Now I think it's down to
350.
350. Does that include any townhomes now, or is that just, okay, so the total of the entire development would be about 350. So it seems like a lot of places, I know it's not, a lot of places are building 500, 750. Do you have any, can you point to any similar residential developments in a city about our size that you've had experience, and maybe some pros and cons, or just some things, again, for this council to consider?
Yeah, absolutely. As you can imagine, Northeast Florida is growing profoundly, and we're having this conversation very often. Once again, that's why we encourage that early planning thought process. Probably as far as a parallel, we've, you know, there in Stark, Florida, we're seeing similar development interests where those conversations are happening early. In Newberry, there's some pretty substantial developments proposed that we're coordinating early on, talking about the types of improvements that would be required on the DOT facility. I mean, it's amazing. We're seeing everything from, you know, these large RV type rentals, you know, 400 units to, you know, 500,000 homes. It's hard to. Every situation is unique. Every situation has a unique road infrastructure, so it's hard to broadcast an exact, you know, verbatim approach. But once again, those early planning, early conversations are what we're trying to get ahead of, so that we look for that long-term need.
Would you say then probably officials and Newberry specifically and Stark would be, if we were interested in contacting some of them, they would probably have some things that tell pros and cons on how to approach this?
Absolutely.
How it's impacted their community, good and bad?
Definitely, and I think once again that early coordination, we're hand in hand working talking about the issues of tomorrow. And once again, that's an opportunity through early coordination is to plan for the now versus the long term. Even the developer being at the table, you know, talk about their growth plans and their rate, and of course utility infrastructure. There's all these other things that go into the conversation beyond just, you know, transportation. So all those players are involved early and often.
Yes. Another question, Rick's question was, does the developer typically pay for the traffic lights, and how is that enforced? But if it's later, then I guess the answer is, if it's not required in the beginning, the developer does not pay for it.
That's correct. This is that opportunity now through a permitted connection to set forth those expectations, those requirements.
So how would you do that? I mean, if it's not required now, you can't. Can we make the developer put the traffic light or agree to do it? Is that possible?
That's a conversation that you would ultimately have to have. Once again, if you make the Bass Road connection without consideration of 129, it would be a reactive delivery to a signal or roundabout or whatever solution we have to come.
Okay. So that. Yeah. Right, if they turn into a master plan and they show that they're committing to that, I guess they could agree to it at that time. I'm sure that's something the attorney can answer.
Yes, and once again, we do see scenarios where developers commit to that need, and when that point of need arises, that they're financially committed to making those improvements. And I've seen it done several different ways. Every agency is a little different in their approach, but there's opportunity there.
If DOT, I don't know if you want to answer this or can. If DOT made improvements, for example, traffic light for the city of Live Oak, or say a project like this or somewhere else, would that negatively impact any other projects you might be considering for Live Oak? You may say, well, we're spending $2 million on this light now, you know, we can't do this over here now. Does that come into play?
I'll say we work closely with local agencies to plan and prioritize. Obviously, you know, to do this in advance, once again, it's a reactive or proactive. You know, in a proactive scenario, county or city would acknowledge that we need to do this, and you would prioritize a request above any other request on the table. The reactive solution is unfortunately a safety type response, which we want to prevent. So yes, it could have an adverse impact, assuming that you would see this as a higher priority above other projects that are in the program already.
And this is, I know we have the county here, and we'll give them an opportunity, I'm sure, later to ask any questions or have any input that they would like. But obviously, the Walker Street there and Bass Road are in the county, but they connect the city. So does the development of this size, I mean, in your experience, is that going to be enough? I know you're familiar with it because you're from here, but to ingress and egress on Bass Road and Walker, I mean, they would probably have to have more than one entrance and exit, I'm assuming, or on each road, or it could be just, that's just a question you'd have to look at with site plan. Yeah. So on these county roads, who would typically pay for those? Would that be the county would pay for that?
Correct, the county, or they would utilize our grant programs, which they prioritize projects through right now to fund their needs.
Gotcha, so they could apply for a grant to do those kinds of things. So as we mentioned, I think I put in the question to you, there's 7 schools, I think there's 8 schools actually within about less than a mile. So traffic wasn't, see Mr. Hines here from the school board, but traffic only issue. What does that look like to DOT? Do you have any thoughts on that?
In transparency, if you have circulation challenges today, you're just gonna add to that problem statement as far as you're looking ahead.
Okay. Someone asked about the 129 there, about putting a traffic light, and this is sounds like maybe down the future. This is just a question that came up. Could possibly a roundabout work there at Bass Road and 129? Is that something that
Absolutely.
Convenience
That,
center?
yeah, that's, once again, that's part of the ICE or intersection control evaluation process. We would look at all the different alternatives. To be honest with you, roundabouts, you know, it's a community issue more than really opportunity of implementation. The fortunate side for Suwannee County and Live Oak is you have a roundabout, you know, you're accustomed to that operation. You can imagine from the efficiency perspective, a roundabout is very resilient in the sense if you lose power, you lose those services, it continues to operate versus a signal control with electrical connectivity. So there are advantages to roundabouts. It could be a community-driven, input-based decision to go with a roundabout, go with a signal or any other option.
Are you aware of any potential county developments that may impact this area traffic-wise?
Not offhand to the south of Live Oak in the immediate. I'm familiar with some things in, you know, kind of more near the Brantford area. Nothing of this size and to the south at this time.
This is kind of a general question. What can DOT do to help with future traffic issues in the city of Live Oak because of this development and others, especially north and south, as everybody knows, the main corridor? I mean, somebody had mentioned it. I think it's probably pretty accurate. Anybody on the south end, they had the Walmart or Publix, so then they're coming back, and we have a lot of traffic issues now.
Yeah. As example by the Newberry and the Stark, you know, if you ask DOT to come to the table and look from the planning perspective of long-term growth and needs, we will absolutely put resources into laying it out, even to the point of we can lay out alternative concepts and show, you know, probability opportunities, things that may be required as an early planning opportunity. It's a request. That's my role in the department, is to make sure our local agencies have resources to plan for the future.
Yes, sir. Well, we have a meeting. I forget the gentleman's name that came over.
David Tyler. Yeah, he works in.
Yes, David. And so I don't know. You know, we talked about a number of things, bypass and that sort of thing. But it seemed like there's some immediate things maybe that the DOT could help us with. So maybe a result of this submission and annexation is we can begin meeting a little bit more often. I know Mr. Sessions has met with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And our public works director. So I know y'all have been talking about things, but I'm talking just in terms of the council, you know, making policy decisions and that sort of thing. Do you see, how far out west do you go, your district?
I cover 18 counties running from the Georgia line all the way to the Atlantic Ocean, down to just north of Flagler, Marion County, all the way out to Jefferson.
Okay, you don't go out to Phoenix Springs, or you're not out in Fort St. Joe area, you're not, because that's an area that's growing quite a bit too. There's a number of small cities out there that's similar in size to Live Oak. Those were the main written questions that was presented. I don't know, did you get any more? I don't think you got any more than those, did you? Okay, so we can have then the council, if the council like to ask, follow up on some of those questions.
Not into those, I got, Matt, let's go down the line.
Sure.
Well, I don't think I got an answer to some of those things, but when you and I talked, you gave me a number on traffic light and all of that, and led to the assumption that once the development come in, then all this stuff had to be put in place. Now you tell me there's a period, it may be a 5-year period down the road or a 10-year period down the road, depends on your traffic study and all of that, before you get to a point of putting a stop light. And I'm just trying to figure out how all that got started with the development. Then just traffic light, $2 million or whatever, gets brought in, but that's a future item down the road. And like I said, I was led to believe that since this is going on, development going on, then this other thing about the traffic light and 129, Bass Road and Walker, and all that, I just.
Well, there's two different scenarios. If the developer proposes a connection to State Road 51, that ICE analysis would have to be performed, which would justify, it's assuming that the warrants are met, would justify the placement of a signal, the responsibility of the developer. The risk for us is if we permit a connection on Bass Road, not considering the impacts of 51, at that point it becomes a reactive solution where it's the need to put in a signal or improvements at the Bass Road 51 connection are based on conflicts or safety issues, whatever it may be, and that's that time delay. So it's kind of if you connect it to DOT's facility, there's an immediate, you got to immediately address the improvements needed. If the county, the city elects just to approve without consideration of that grander impact or have that grander plan, then that's going to be when you'd see a delay scenario. Now, what is that time? I can't say. It could be opening. It could be 5 years. It's all dependent upon the way folks drive, the human nature of things. Are folks going to go to Walker, or are they going to run back 50? I don't know. It's one of those you have to monitor and watch and see versus encourage proactively doing it if we're going to connect to the DOT system now.
Well, that's what I didn't get from you. What you're saying now, like I said, I got something else pretty much from you, and then the dollar amount on the traffic light and all that. I guess I didn't ask the right questions, or you didn't go into details, but nevertheless, I'm satisfied with
Okay, Mr. President, I've got.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to speak a little bit. Here's the way I see it. If it gets annexed, then it means that it's approved, okay? So what I see then is the developer he has a plan already, I'm sure. So he presents a plan to you for a permit. And when that plan is presented to you, then you guide them through the permit process as far as, are you going to have outlets on 129, or how many outlets on 129 possibly, or on, Walker, you don't have anything to do with it. So the plan's made, the permit's issued, and once the permit's issued, everything on that permit will be agreed to. And then once that agreement's made, it's the onus of the developer to handle everything within the permit. He gives a permit, and the developer basically pays for what has to go in. It's fairly simple. If the annexation passes, that's the way I see it. It's about a two-step process, really. You have to see the plan before you can give a permit.
But if there's a need for a traffic light 5 years from now, when there's the full 350 houses built, or at what point, that's when the traffic light might be required. And I think the developer wouldn't be, that was my question. Maybe that's a question for our attorney. Can we hold him to that?
That's what my
I
thought
don't know
is.
that off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
no, I understand. I'm not asking.
What I was getting at when I said plan was the total plan and the total impact. So if we do a plan of, let's say, 350 houses, and you plan on 2 cars per house, and the impact it will take, and the DOT knows how to do these studies. So they will do the study based on the entire overall plan, not the piecemeal. That's the way I see it.
Let me ask you one more question. Is there, going north now, all that infrastructure out there and the buildings and all that, is there a plan for another stoplight on this side of the interstate, that side, because you got all that traffic coming up out of the busy beat? Now, has DOT looked at a plan for another traffic light? You've had several accidents, several people lost their lives right at that coming up that off ramp. So now, is there a plan
Yes.
by DOT?
Yes, absolutely. We're actually going to be coming to the public here in the spring and presenting a concept that would signalize the ramps or meter the ramps at the interchange to allow, it basically phase out the operation so that people would have to stop, allow the ramps to ingress, egress, and then free flow. So yes, we do have a project plan there. It'll go to construction late summer of next year.
So who will be responsible? Swanee County, City of Live responsible for that stoplight? What was the cost and dollar amount?
DOT.
DOT will take that up.
And that's the ramps, specifically the ramps at the interchange will be signalized. Whereas now you stop and you find the queue to make the move, and you'll actually have a dedicated phase, a red-green actuation to make that movement.
So DOT will foot the bill?
Correct.
Okay. So DOT won't foot the bill, don't be about
Well,
that.
that goes back to that scenario of reactive. When Busy Bee was built, the best of intentions were made. As you all can understand, Busy Bee has grown profoundly, and it has definitely had the business model is being emulated, and it's created that demand, that trip generation. And it's very similar to the scenario here that you'd have if you approve access off of Bass Road without consideration 51. It would put a reactive approach, a reactive responsibility on the DOT to go in and address it from the safety perspective. But I'll say we do, once again, that's another scenario where we partner with Swanee County. We're laying out plans for the future. We're proactively thinking about, the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. That opportunity to be presented just, to the city in the same manner.
Frank,
I can kind of speak to this. I'm doing another project.
and we'll call you back up. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Neil Boucher. I live at 104 Colony Harbor Road, Panama City Beach, Florida. And we're doing a large project, 1,500 acres, 3,500 houses off of Highway 77 up there. So what happens in the whole scenario is this is all planned out. So when we come up with a site plan, when we go to DOT, and to show them what they're doing, they're going to have to approve it, as well as the city of Live Oak, as well as everything. So, it's going to go through planning, utilities, the whole deal. And we're going to be responsible to pay for everything. We have to pay for anything. Now, what he's saying is that we have a similar situation. When we put in 3,500 houses up there might need to be a traffic signal 10 years from now, 15 years from now. But that's on FDOT. We gave them the plans, we told them what was happening. If they permit it and they don't require it, that's not our problem, it's not your problem. It's the Florida Department of Transportation. And they'll be responsible to pay for that. But I don't know that 350, here's the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get a traffic impact study. So we're going to know with that many houses, what it's going to look like, and that's the first thing I'm doing, as a matter of fact. Traffic is always a concern to everybody everywhere. You mentioned the Funiac Springs. I'm doing a 250 unit apartment building up there. First thing I'm doing is a traffic impact study to see where we are on the road that we're at. We don't have an FDOT connection, but we have a county road that we want to be sure. Before I start spending a lot of money, I want to know what the stakes are in the grass, what's going to bite me. So, we know about your utilities, they're right across the street. Another thing too, once we loop those utilities, you get rid of your brown water.